Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today in our webinar, we're going to showcase Israeli AgTech startups which are catered for the US market. In addition, we're going to have fireside chat with two leading investors regarding the agrobotics field and its challenges and trends. Before we begin, I would like to thank my partners in this event, SVG Venture Thrive, for collaborating with us today. Before we begin, again, I would like to introduce myself and Growing AL for those of you who do not know it. Growing AL is the Israeli AgTech community. It's a government initiative of the Israel Innovation Institute, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Agriculture, and Israel Innovation Authority. As per our goals, we have three main goals. The first is to support the growth of the Israeli AgTech sector and enhance the implementation of innovation within our field, while in the same time positioning Israel as a global innovation center for AgTech. We understood that startups don't grow in a void, and as a community player which has no business interest, we think we have a unique positioning which allows us to bring the ecosystem members together and providing them with a supporting platform for knowledge sharing, networking, and collaboration. As you can see here, the slide, our community members varies from entrepreneurs, government officials, academia, farmers, agribusinesses, investors, etc. Up to date, we have 4,800 community members. So how do we do that, and how do we provide them with this supporting platform? We have two strategic channels. The first is ecosystem development, which includes 4 elements. The first element is events. We're creating all sorts of events, from small B2B meetings to conferences, investors events, practical meetups and webinars. The second element that we have is tools. From time to time, we're creating tools that focuses on the needs of the entrepreneurs. I brought to you a few examples. We have our investors map, which portrays the local landscape of investors which are relevant for this field. And I think that when startups are looking for investment, it really helps them to understand which fund is relevant for them according to their fields of interest, subtextual stages, etc. Another tool that we have is our AgTech Pilot Marketplace, which connects Israeli farmers with Israeli startups for pilot purposes. And that's our tool in a nutshell. The third element that we have is our virtual community, just basic channels that we're communicating with our members on a daily basis, bringing them the most important AgTech events and opportunities. We communicate them during LinkedIn, newsletters, and Facebook. And the fourth element that we have is connection. We're trying to meet all the members in the community, understand the needs and challenges, and then connect them with relevant entities and stakeholders according to their needs and wishes. Here you can see some power numbers from our activity in the last 4 years. The second strategic channel that we have is implementation. We're trying to bring the high-tech access with the industry access by creating open innovation processes such as demo days, hackathon, adaptathon, etc., that eventually will lead to joint POCs, pilots, and implementation. Here you can see an example that we did with Bayer Crop Science, and the team who won eventually did a joint POC funded by Bayer. So whether you're a startup, corporate, farmer, or an NGO, there's something for you. We can be your gateway to the Israeli AgTech ecosystem. We can connect you with global entities with relevant technologies. We can create co-events with you or create tailor-made open innovation processes, just as I showed earlier. So that's Growing AL in a nutshell. And if you have any questions or looking to explore future collaboration, feel free to contact me in my email. So next, I want to move to our partner, SVG Venture, to say them opening remarks. But before they begin, I want to show a quick movie about them.
SVG Ventures Thrive is an innovation and investment platform based in Silicon Valley, and we're focused on the agri-food tech sector. We work with global corporations, farmers, and startups to advance the future of food and agriculture through innovation. We work with over 5,000 startups from 100 countries, and our Thrive Accelerator was ranked the #1 agri-food accelerator by AgFunder. We've graduated an international cohort every year since 2014. Crunchbase ranks SVG Ventures as the most active AgTech investor with over 50 investments to date in the sector, and those startups have created almost $1 billion in value. Our open innovation programs and corporate challenges identify technologies for our partners that accelerate their innovation priorities, investment and acquisition strategies. We were honoured to launch the USDA Innovation Imperative at the Agricultural Outlook Forum with the US Secretary of Agriculture. We run major agri-food events and regional challenges around the world with partners like Forbes Media, and these key events are bringing our corporate partners, farmers, investors and startups and the entire ecosystem together.
Well, we think that Thrive is our most important relationship in terms of understanding the AgTech landscape. The thing that we really appreciate with Thrive is that they help us bring together this whole vast landscape of tech startups to our industry. And that's really a great value because there's so much going on in this space that for us it'd be too much to try to make sense of, but Thrive does a great job of that.
Being a part of Thrive has meant an incredible network of world-leading AgTech entrepreneurs, as well as very powerful connections to large corporations who are interested in or already actively engaged in innovation in agriculture.
People have great ideas around the world, and what they've done a really nice job of is convince these folks, one, to come and interact with us, two, to listen to our problems so they can then adopt and adapt their technology or their solution to our problems. And that's going to make change and improvement and sustainability move ahead much more quickly for our industry. And so Thrive helps bridge that gap between the know-how in Silicon Valley and the application here with growers in the Salinas Valley and growers around the world.
It is really something that you couldn't get on your own as a startup. There's just no way you could facilitate that type of networking and that type of opportunity without someone like Thrive. And I think they just do it best.
Great to be with you here today, and greetings from Silicon Valley. And we're delighted to collaborate with Growing IL to put a spotlight on some of the best Israeli AgTech startups. A big thank you to Growing IL team, and we also plan to deepen our partnership and strengthen our links between US, Silicon Valley and Israel to advance the future of food and agriculture, and also help Israeli startups to grow and scale through the US market. Investment in the AgTech space or the AgTech sector has exploded over the course of the last 8 years by almost 10 times. And venture capital investment is expected to hit almost 30 billion this year. Israeli startups have taken their fair share of this investment, and they have an incredible track record and reputation here in the USA. Several Israeli startups have been part of our annual Thrive Top 50, such as Prospera, CropX, Infarm, Taranis. And we were delighted to see Prospera's exit this year to Valmont, one of our partners, for over 300 million. Also, we were super impressed with Autonomous Pivot, who completed and won our 2021 Thrive Accelerator program at our Thrive Forbes Summit earlier this year. So a great track record for Israeli startups. I'm delighted to be joined here today by one of the top VCs in AgTech here in Silicon Valley, Nolan Paul. He's a partner and global lead at Yamaha Motor Ventures and a really good friend. We've worked together for over 5-6 years when he was head of R&D and strategy and emerging technologies for Driscoll's, who, as you may know, are the global leader in fresh berries. And prior to that, he was investment banker at Lehman Brothers and Barclay Capital in the Global Technology Group, where he worked on M&A, equity, and debt transactions. And he's a graduate with distinction from UCLA. So great to have you, Nolan, and thank you for participating. I know that a lot of people are very familiar with the name Yamaha, but maybe not as much about Yamaha Motor Ventures and maybe your investment priorities and focus areas. So.
Sure, and thanks for having me here. So our company, you'd probably associate us more with a motorcycle company or something like that, but we actually go back over, now 130 years started as a music company, and then became, we decided to say, hey, let's become a motorcycle company. We went into motorboats, became a robotics company, and so it's very much in the DNA of our company to say, what's next? Not just what's new technologies for core markets, but just what are the new markets we can go into for growth. So our venture group was started back in 2015, really with the thesis that, okay, let's not just invest in technologies that are close, to our core product lines, but what are the new markets we can go after? Within that, our core focuses are within mobility. Obviously, that makes sense, being primarily a mobility company, but in that place, we're not investing in things that are close to sort of what we do now. Food and ag is the other one, and we've made a number of investments there, and as well as health and wellness. And in many ways, all three of those actually will overlap in certain spaces.
Excellent, thank you, Nolan. I know you've invested in quite a number of robotic companies, software platform companies, and also it's been very interesting that you've invested not just here in the US, but outside of the US as well, which is excellent. When you're evaluating your investment, looking at a startup, what are kind of some of the things you look for in companies?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I'll answer it in the general way, and then specifically to ag, because I think in many ways ag is different, but it can't be too different, or else it doesn't make sense for venture capital to invest in it. Certainly, and not to sort of say what everybody would say, but really, particularly at the stage that we invest, which is at the Series C and the Series A, the team is by far the most important piece, because there's not enough proof points there. You're not investing in a company that is generating tons of cash flow, and really it's going to be dependent on a team that we really think has the vision as well as the ability to work with customers, both on the technical side and on the kind of the business development side. The other thing I would say specific to ag is, and this is more in the field ag, is too often we find startups where the vision just doesn't align as really with where it needs to be, what we think for venture capital investment, where you're looking at really needing something that's very high growth, could become these platforms. And so a lot of times, again, that comes down to the founders, and perhaps the vision is not as big as it should be. Sometimes that's okay. The founders just sort of need help to kind of to realize the vision. But I think we always say, okay, how big is this market? Do we believe that this is the right team to go there? And then depending on what stage it is, obviously there's other, if it's a Series A deal, then we're expecting to see more traction with customers. If it's, the company's just starting, then, we wouldn't expect that. But certainly sort of team and market are the two big things that we look for.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I know you probably, get hundreds, if not thousands of startup pitches and applications, annually. And, for entrepreneurs out there, what's your advice to them today, with regard to making themselves more attractive to potential investors, and maybe some tips in terms of maybe some of the common mistakes, that you see, or that you would advise some startups here on?
Yeah, I think what's very helpful is where a startup, particularly but it doesn't even have to be at an early stage. We see it a lot, even at a later stage, where, you get a pitch deck and it's not actually clear what the company does. And, that's just, if you can't in your pitch deck be really clear about what the value proposition is or what you think it is, it's just going to be a turn off to a lot of investors. And so you should make it really, really clear. What's the problem? What are you trying to do to solve it? And kind of how, that's something that it seems like it's a simple thing, but it's a lot of times that doesn't come across. The other thing I would say, as you start to dig into the company, is the companies that do a good job at really understanding the economics of what they have. They've talked a lot to customers. They have, I think it's really clear when you're dealing with teams that, again, know the problem that they're going after. They've really thought through what this technology and product needs to look like at scale. Some of the errors would be when you haven't thought through that, you're building something, you haven't really thought about what your target costs need to be at the end. And the problem with that is, you can maybe as a prototype get something out into the field, but you're going to be an order of magnitude off on, on costs. And, people say, oh, well, at scale, we'll bring that down. But sometimes if your design is just completely off, it's just never going to come down. And so, I think, again, it comes down to the team having the right set of people there who understand the problem. And what we really value too is really good interaction and feedback from customers.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice there. And maybe like a follow-on question with this, Nolan. Obviously, a lot of startups on the Zoom call here tonight or this evening, and what would you ask them in terms of pitching to Yamaha, or and I'll put a follow-on to that. Where should they go to get their pitch into you?
Oh, you can just go to our website. You'll find, all of our names there and kind of where to send the stuff. But yeah, I mean, just, I think for us, what we're looking for, and maybe this is just more of a general comment too, going back to the previous question with regards to ag, I think you'll find there's like two different types of investors in this space. There's people that are really focused on ag, and you may not need to sell them as much on sort of what the value proposition is. But in general, what we found, and particularly with ag tech startups and the ability to scale as they, maybe not in the Series C, but in Series A, but to the Series B, is there's a lot of investors that they're looking at these companies and they don't look like what they're used to investing in, right? Just a SaaS company focused on the consumer market. And ag is hard. It definitely is. It's a seasonal sector. Sales cycles are really important. And that's something, maybe even going back 2 questions too, teams that really understand that. I've seen so many, this is something that's maybe harder to see, pre-investment, but post-investment, companies have really fallen behind just not being able to plan and understand, like, hey, I need to raise money now and I need to talk to customers and get the sales done because the season starts. If you miss it, then you're behind a year. And it's a big reason. It's really a key risk in ag, where you see the revenue targets get pushed out year over year, sometimes just because the planning wasn't there. And again, so I think that's a really key piece, but also being able to articulate that to investors. And then, I think on the hardware side, that's another step because, companies, I would say just advice I would have to the startups that are more hardware, that have hardware as a product, and particularly things that are really hard. I would frame it more as a deep tech play, and you really need to sell to these investors where the growth is, and be thoughtful about trying. For example, you're going to get to a Series A or a Series B, and these investors are going to be asking, okay, well, what's your sales? And you may say, I have 0 sales. They're going to be like, well, how are you going to raise $20 million on 0 sales? You go, okay, well, look, here's what the market looks like. And we've seen startups go and get an LOI from customers. We've had them, be kind of thoughtful about how, even if they don't have booked contracts, doing enough to show the investor that, okay, here's this key customer, we're going to work with them to scale into the hectares that they have. We've seen those types of companies actually be able to go out now and raise, larger rounds. And so just advice I would give to the group here, particularly if they're going out trying to raise a larger amount of money with, and they haven't quite got that sales numbers yet that a typical investor investing in Series A or Series B would want to see.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Excellent. And, obviously you have a very unique view, Nolan. Obviously you sit on one side of the table and you've seen pitches from entrepreneurs, but also, you have been deep in the whole ag industry itself in terms of working with someone like Driscoll Berries, working with various different growers around the world. Maybe for our international or Israeli audience here, what would you see or describe as some of the key challenges, for farmers or growers, that is driving some of the, the technology deployments, and when is the right time to kind of get to the farmers, or what would you suggest or advice to kind of go to market there here in the US?
Yeah, so certainly in the U.S., again, depending, you bifurcated between the broad acre side and the specialty side. We spend most of our time in specialty crops like the apple trees here. In that case, certainly labor is by far the biggest problem, and everything that has to do with labor is just a huge challenge. And so we've certainly seen that as an area where investors are looking for any help in any way. But it's more, I would say in general, the thesis that resources of all types are becoming more scarce. Labor is a resource, but spraying the amount of chemicals is certainly becoming a problem. We know that's going to be less and less. Water, land, all of these things. And so I think that's just a really important theme to go after. And then I would say when you're thinking about your go-to-market with the challenge you can face is that the customers who are the most forward thinking and want to kind of engage with startups at that early stage, they may not represent the rest of the grower base. They may invest a lot more into technology, their vineyards, their orchards, their fields may be different. And so you go and you work with them and you think you've solved something, then you realize they represented 2% of the grower base. No one else is where they're at. And so, I think really make sure you do a good job going out, speaking to multiple growers, and then deciding, okay, who's the right grower to work with that represents probably, most of sort of the hectares out there. So you got a good, partner to work with. I think would be key things there.
That's great advice. I think maybe my last question really is, there's so much activity in the world around climate, COP26. I think everybody on the planet is kind of hearing what's going on, and sustainability has become more of a thing that people are looking to drive action. Now it's tough for farmers. I heard from a farmer in Ireland saying, how can I go green when I'm in the red? But from an investor perspective, from Yamaha's perspective, when you're considering investments, do you look at kind of either a double or triple impact in terms of the benefit, in terms of the sustainability, or how do you approach that when you're making your investment decisions? Yeah,
so we actually sort of related to this, just launched an environmental fund too. One, just as a company, we recognize that we are, I don't want to quote an exact number because I don't know it, but I would imagine 90% of our sort of sales are tied to petrol-based products. And we fundamentally believe that just to exist in the future, we have to be more green. We just, our company launched a massive 30-year environmental plan. From an investment standpoint, it's table stakes. Since day one, since we started investing, the first box that we check is, does this company address a major social or environmental problem? So, I think that's where the future is going. Certainly, food and ag is right in the crosshairs, both good and bad. And so I think, and we certainly, it shapes our thesis too. There's certain parts of the food and ag world, not to name them, but I think they're going to be up against a lot of headwinds, and you got to think kind of long term whether that's a place, even just from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. And so, not to sort of be common about it, but I would say probably the things that are going to be more environmentally, that'll win on the environmental side are also going to win from a return standpoint too.
Well, Nolan, it was super great chance to chat with you. Some great advice for entrepreneurs, and again, thank you for your time. And I know you'll have your ear to the ground for Israeli startups that are pitching over to you on the email. So thank you, Nolan.
Great.
And I'll hand it back to Dana.
Thank you so much, John and Nolan. It was very interesting, and I'm sure the startups were very interested and intrigued to hear that. Let's move on to the second part of the webinar and showcase leading Israeli AgTech startups which are catered for the US market. I'm happy to invite Daniel Jenkins, Business Development Manager at Autonomous Pivot, to showcase his company. Daniel, the stage is yours.
Hi, my name is Daniel Jenkins, Business Development Manager, as Dana said, at Autonomous Pivot. Autonomous Pivot takes advantage of standard center pivot irrigation systems to revolutionize row crop farming using sophisticated sensors, machine learning, and robotics. Irrigation pivots relentlessly rotate in hundreds of thousands of fields. So our co-founders thought, why not equip them with sensors, make them into something more, and transform them from simple metal pipes into farming robots? A major problem with current agricultural practices is the lack of reliable data. This results in poor decisions. These decisions waste natural resources and ultimately cost the farmer money. Autonomous Pivot has a solution, a system that manages the three main concerns of the farmer during the growing season. These are irrigation, fertilizers, and crop health. A little bit more about our system. Managing irrigation is key to maximizing production. 1 day of water stress can cause up to a 5% yield loss. But over-irrigation can also negatively affect yield and compromise crop health. Our innovative, non-invasive GPR, where you see under figure number 1, that's our ground penetrating radar, measures over 300 points the whole way around the field, optimizing irrigation as per the crop's specific water needs.
Daniel, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Your notes are covering your slides on the left-hand
Oh,
side.
I'm very sorry.
So we're missing some of your wonderful slides.
Okay.
If you could just change your view.
All right. How?
Thank you.
Yes. Fertilizers and chemicals are also a very important need for the grower to manage across the season. Knowing how much to apply and when to apply are important questions that must be answered. Our solution is a proprietary mobile nitrogen sensor. You see it here in figure 2. It travels with the pivot and collects data regarding chlorophyll production as it rotates with the field. Ultimately, our crop health sensor provides continuous in-field monitoring. You can see that the camera has both narrow field of view and a wide field of view. That gives us both a bird's eye view of the field and allows us sub-millimeter feature detection. This tees us into diseases, anomalies, can even give us insight into stand count and yield prediction. So this is the solution. All of these sensors feed the data into the cloud, into what we've built, which is called our AI Agronomist. This takes data from the sensors, data from third-party aerial providers, and data from the web, and it gives us actionable insights, alerts, fertigation, and irrigation prescription. Ultimately, our goal is to alleviate stress from the farmer. And so we envision closing the loop, and that's controlling the irrigation pivot. So actually uploading a usable pivot control program to bring us one step closer to truly autonomous agriculture. So if the problem is a lack of reliable data leading to suboptimal decisions, the autonomous pivot solution takes abundant and reliable agronomic data, which leads to optimal decisions, actionable recommendations, which ultimately leads to a high economic yield. And this is all done in an autonomous manner. Some more about our customer traction. Farmers love our system. They find it useful. They find that it helps put more grain in the bins, more dollars in their pocket, and we have ambitious growth plans for 2022. Ultimately, there's a great opportunity here. Our product has high profit margins, great customer demand, and helps them address sustainability goals. As John said, we were honored earlier this year to be awarded the Thrive Forbes Innovation Icon, and we're excited to continue that success and leverage that on into more growth and help more growers in the 2022 season. Thank you for your interest, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Let's move on to the next startup, Automotive Robotics. I'm happy to invite Dror Erez, the CEO of the company, to present their company. And please don't take more time than the 5-minute pitch. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'll share the screen. Okay, hi. Look at this wonderful supermarket shelf. How happy it is, huh? Each fruit was harvested by hand, a lot of work. That's a lot of people. And look at that one, how sad it is. There goes the agriculture, probably, because people don't want to work hard anymore. That is happening while the world requires more and more food. And turns out the agriculture is no more sustainable. So I'm Dror from Automotive Robotics, and we want to help solving the international labor crisis in agriculture by providing affordable robots for every farmer. We focus on the greenhouse labor market, which is a huge market. And we're going to create a future workforce by developing and providing and also managing a fleet of affordable robots of various types, all based on the same platform, which is this platform, actually. This is our greenhouse platform that is familiar with greenhouses and is able to travel, map, navigate, day, night, with trailer, without trailer, forward, backward, and more, much more. Okay, but most of all, it has a standard interface on which you can mount various types of robotic applications that we call attachments, which is the term for tractors, as this platform is going to be the autonomous tractor of greenhouses. So this is our first robot, that is to say the first attachment. Yep. It will be an autonomous sprayer mounted on the same platform, suitable for all crops. I'll show you a video. Suitable for all crops and maintaining the people far away from the chemical materials. Okay, so that's a sprayer. You can see it in Israeli greenhouse. I'll go on. This is the second robot, second attachment, on the same platform. This is a tomato harvester, and what it does, it detects the tomatoes and harvests the red ones. There is a lot more to say about it, but there is no lot of time here, so I'll go on. Okay, it's not only about robots. It's also about the data that we collect, which we leverage for yield analysis, for example, and reduce food waste and by doing early pest and disease detection. The market is huge. We are focusing on the greenhouse marketing, and as it is underserved. We're going to start in Israel as a testing bed, then move to Western Europe, where the market is over 15 billion euros, starting with Spain. Now, the most interesting market to start with is southern Spain. It's actually an area called Almeria greenhouse market. We are already there. A lot of relationships. You can see the big ones. We've got a lot of LOIs and relationships with them. Actually, we are the only ones who develop robots for normal greenhouses that account for 85% of the world. And this is our team, the leading team. We are two entrepreneurs with a lot of experience and supported by other well-known experts, not only in Israel, but also in Spain. Our go-to-market approach is related to many stakeholders in the value chain. We have several cooperation vectors with distributors, big end users, design and manufacturing partners, and we are constantly expanding our network. Our goal is to hit the ground running once we become commercials. And obviously, we need funds. To date, we have raised 800K in grants and recently closed the first stage of our first fundraising round with $500K from investors. Now, the first round is still open, as we are going to try to expand it with more funds. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dror. Moving on to the next startup, Beewise. He will going to talk about AI-powered Beehive monitoring and harvesting platform. I'm happy to invite Sal Safra, co-founder and CEO of Beewise, to the stage.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Sar from Beewise. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll walk you through a short deck. And today we're going to talk about bees. First and foremost, I'm sure that we're all here in the ag industry. We know this, that a lot of the food that we eat is pollinated by bees, and not only the things we eat necessarily, it's also the things we drink, cotton, even alfalfa, which is related to the beef industry, to the meat industry, to the dairy industry. And so bees are important in our lives. But at the same time, we're losing a lot of the bees on the planet. We are losing about 40% of the bee colonies on this planet every single year. Year over year, and there's not much we can do about it. From China all the way to the US and everything in between, we will lose 40% of our bee colonies this year. Considering they're so important infrastructural to our global food supply, this is a big issue globally, the bees. In addition to that, beekeeping is still done like 150 years ago. It's people going into the field, wearing protective gear, moving wooden boxes from one field to the other. This is how pollination works, what you see on my screen for the last 150 years. And today, with more demand for the bees' product, for pollinated crops, and the supply that keeps on going down because of the bees' collapse, we see this huge gap between supply and demand. This is where we come into the picture. Beewise offers an autonomous beehive, a device that allows beekeepers to grow bees, provide pollination services, harvest honey, without having to lose all their colonies. What we offer is a device that houses 24 colonies with a robotic system in the center. The robot continuously monitors the bees, identifies what they need, and in real time addresses their needs within the device. By doing that, we allow the bees not only to survive, but to thrive. This is the first device on the planet that actually saves bees at scale. And because bees provide commercial and financial value to beekeepers and to crop owners, we're able to make a profitable solution and save the bees at the same time. Our device lowers colony collapse by 70%. So instead of having 40% colony collapse, we experienced less than 10% colony collapse in our devices over the last 3 years in thousands of hives. By saving the bees, we're able to increase their yield because pollination and honey production are directly related to number of bees alive. And all that while having a robotic system, significantly lowering labor costs, because again, everybody on this call is from the ag industry, so you're all aware that labor is a big thing. This is an important point. When we talk to beekeepers, they understand we're not replacing labor. We're replacing the labor that doesn't exist. They don't have enough hands on deck to actually optimize on their existing hives. We have over 100 of these systems scattered in Israel and California. And what happens, beekeeping now becomes a digitized solution. So we're solving the colony collapse problem with software. A beekeeper now doesn't go to the field to work with a robot. The beekeeper actually walks to their computer in an AC room and can see everything that is going on in their hives and can make smart, precise decisions on how to address every single hive in real time. Does this hive need harvesting? Does another hive need medication? Maybe there's a pest. And so we allow beekeepers to do that remotely, again, significantly lowering labor costs and at the same time saving the bees. we're basically taking the beekeeper and dividing between the expertise, the know-how, the 30 years of experience, and the actual manual labor that doesn't provide a lot of value. Sorry. The value stems from the beekeeper's expertise. So the robot does the manual labor in the field with a device, and the beekeeper sits behind a screen and controls the robot remotely. We provide 97% of what beekeepers could do via a robot. It's a big market. Our business model is a SaaS model. It's a subscription, a monthly payment. And the important part is the customers that use us, they realize 103% more profit after paying us our fees. So from a financial standpoint, this makes more sense than a 150-year-old wooden box. We're about 85 people strong now. This slide is a little bit out of date. We raised some capital since our inception, and we won some pretty prestigious awards we're very proud of. I apologize about the background noise. I'm in California right now. We are raising our Series C, and I have to say that, Nolan, what you said about fundraising and the different cycles, you literally experienced the last 3 years of how you bring customers and the timing and all that. So I appreciate that feedback. And thank you for having us and for listening. I'll be happy to take any questions on the chat window.
Thank you so much, Sal. Let's move on to the next startup. And before we move on, I just want to say that if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button below, and we will try to refer to all of your questions at the end of the session. Let's move on to Blue White Robotics. I'm happy to invite Ron Shkar, General Manager at Blue White Robotics USA, to present his company.
So hi, Blue White Robotics. Our vision is to revolutionize agriculture through autonomy with values of fellowship, love of the land, and innovation. Quick snapshot about the company. Founded in 2017, mainly by Air Force veterans that spent many years, like myself, in the autonomous technology ecosystems. Offices in Tel Aviv and in California and New York, more than 100 employees, vast experience in the autonomous landscape, and backed by top VCs, both in Israel and the US. And we have vast experience, I'll elaborate about that, and build everything from the ground up. I don't need to elaborate on that because for this forum, but labor is a big problem, especially in permanent crops where we focus ourselves. And now is the right time to solve this problem with autonomy, especially because they're also a very enabling regulation and customer acceptance. You hear more and more growers saying that they have to innovate or they wouldn't make their business sustainable or even last. And also there's a lot of in-field data opportunities. So there's a lot of more companies like we see here that consume in-field data that can take advantage in a robot that working day and night and a communication infrastructure. So what we provide is autonomous farm solution, which is a complete infrastructure for autonomy. It starts with a kit, a software and hardware kit that we install on existing tractor. It could be John Deere, it could be New Holland, Kubota, you name it. We accept all colors and transfer them to our robot. Then it moves to our software platform that basically manage the whole fleet and distributed the data. And we do it in a robot as a service approach where we work very closely with the growers to adopt this service and this technology. Every farm is different, every labor or practice, farming practice is a bit different, and they need someone close with them to create a successful stories. This platform basically maximizing annual saving, starting from labor, reducing the amount of equipment needed because you can do more with less, and reduce inputs. Of course, we improve sustainability, both safety and healthy, and the health of the farming team and the crops. And we definitely see ourselves building the 21st century farmers, and building a robotic team into the existing farming companies is something that brings sparks to everyone's eyes. So that's exciting. I will show a really quick video. Let me know if
You
you
have
can
1
see
minute.
it. Okay, so we'll finish with this. So my last note would be that in order to save those labor, you really need to focus on doing all the different operations of the farm, all the different implements, and be available to handle different environment and different robot solutions. And that's exactly what we focus on, to actually replace the drivers there.
Thank you so much, Alon. Let's move to Matan Rav from CropX to show their agriculture analytics platform from farm management.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are based. My name is Matan, Director of Business Development at CropX. CropX is an ag analytics startup founded in Israel in 2015 with a vision to revolutionize and automate the farm and the decision-making process by mastering the insights of the soil. We have the world's first and only do-it-yourself farm management system. So let's take a few steps back. When we started our journey, we identified that despite the AgTech revolution, farmers still remain blind to what happens inside their soils. And as a result, they irrigate and fertilize inaccurately and efficiently in a completely unsustainable manner, making agriculture a highly polluting industry. But most AgTech startups focus on above ground data, like satellite imagery, drones, cameras that you can mount on tractors or pivots, as it's data that is easier to get compared to soil data that requires using expensive, cumbersome, difficult to use sensors. But when it comes to irrigation and fertilization management, the above ground data doesn't have the ability to be predictive and preventive, only reactive. This is because by the time there are visible signs of stress that you can detect from an image that was taken from space, the damage has already been done. By monitoring the soil in real time, we can be predictive, we can be preventive, knowing that a plant hasn't received enough water or fertilizer before the plant does. And that's what CropX is all about. By developing the most scalable soil sensing solution and integrating it with above ground data, we first revolutionized irrigation management. Then we expanded later on to nutrition management, and most recently we added crop protection management capabilities to offer a one-stop shop farm management solution. So how does it work? Our sensors, our proprietary patented sensors, collect soil data and transmit it directly to the cloud-based platform to be automatically integrated with weather data, satellite imagery, crop models, soil maps, and everything gets crunched in the cloud together using very advanced machine learning algorithms and AI to provide bottom line actionable insights, recommendations that are crop specific, growth stage specific via our app, which is available on iOS, Android, and web. Here's just one example out of many, a 50-hectare pivot irrigated alfalfa field in Arizona where we ran a one-year trial comparing CropX's automatically calculated irrigation prescriptions to the farmer's standard practice. And we managed to demonstrate a 10% yield increase with 40% less water. And we've had similar success stories across many different crop types and geographies. CropX collaborates with the entire ag-food value chain, addressing all of agriculture, from agrochemical companies to crop insurance and more, anything in between. And we help farmers save on water, fertilizers, energy, labor, and help them maximize their yield potential and become more environmentally sustainable. Last year, during 2020, COVID year, we became the leading company in the world in terms of soil data points with more than 10,000 systems deployed worldwide, thanks to our do-it-yourself approach. This vast deployment allows us to now develop machine learning models that require amounts of data, soil data, that simply no one else has. We are the market consolidator, having completed 3 acquisitions in 18 months, and we're not through. Each acquisition added both technological and commercial capabilities to CropX. CropMatrix offered irrigation management using a third-party soil sensor, and this added a well-oiled distribution channel of more than 150 dealers providing services to more than 1,500 US farmers. Region offered a dairy effluent management solution using a third-party soil sensor, and with that acquisition, we've added not only an offering to new industry for CropX, the dairy industry, but also a foothold into the Southern Hemisphere, thus allowing us to sell all year long. Last but not least, DACOM developed their own weather station and crop protection management services. And this acquisition added the one final missing piece of the puzzle, crop protection, to become a one-stop shop farm management platform. Just to name a few recent commercial highlights, and these are all publicly available. We partnered with NASA as part of their mission to improve food security. We partnered with Renke, one of the largest irrigation system manufacturers, to help them offer their clients a more advanced autonomous irrigation system. We partnered with PepsiCo to help their potato growers grow potato more sustainably with less water and fertilizers. And most recently, we were awarded as a tech pioneer by the World Economic Forum. One more minute and I'm done. We have an amazing team. You're gonna have to trust me on this. We have all the relevant expertise in-house from agronomy, data science, remote sensing, software engineers, electromechanical engineers, everything we need to execute on our $1 billion vision to become the Google of the soil, the global leader. We're backed by an amazing world-class syndicate of investors from the entire ag food value chain who are supporting CropX with vast industry knowledge and network. Last but not least, thank you so much for your time. We'd be delighted to engage with you to explore strategic potential collaborations. And also, we're finally launching our Series C round to continue our global expansion and further consolidate the market. I'd be happy to engage with you to explore collaborations. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Matan. I'm happy to move to the only woman in the bunch, Keren Mimran from Edit, to show their automated pollination system.
So my name is Karen. I'm the VP of Marketing and Business Development of VD. And we're presenting the world's first large-scale artificial pollination solution. Last February, this year, we pollinated almonds here in Israel. And then we packed those pollinators and we shipped them to California, where we used the same pollinators to pollinate pistachios during April. We came back to the US in September, and we've witnessed a 24 average increase of yield. This is something that we measure. We know exactly how much we contributed against the rest of the area that was not pollinated by Edit. Pistachios are wind pollinated, and the reason why we conducted this pilot, which was the first time that we ever pollinated a wind pollinated crop, was because growers in the US have addressed us and asked us to come and provide a solution to a climate change, probably a climate change phenomena of desynchronization of bloom between male and female trees, which result in zero yield. So what's in it for growers? The pistachio market is around, the US pistachio market is around $2 billion annually. There are 370,000 acres of pistachio. A 24% increase of yields means around $500 million increase of dollars to the growers. The almond market, which we're already operating in, is a much larger market. It's the US size of it is around $6 billion. There are more than 1.3 million acres of almonds in the US, And we've been able to increase yield year after year in pilots in Israel by more than 20%. This means another $1.2 billion increase of revenue to growers. There are other crops on the way, cherries, apples, pears, and even rapeseeds and other crops like cotton, whatever it is pollinated by insects or wind. What's in it for the world? First, we can secure the food that we eat because due to the dwindling population of all insects, including bees, as Sarah introduced you before, we are a plan B for humanity because we can secure every yield that is pollinated by insects or by wind. We can increase the agricultural yield on the same cultivated areas without the need to increase those areas. And we are an adaptation to climate change. How do we do that? It is divided into two separate parts. We are producing a pollen bag, and we are providing growers with autonomous 2BE pollinators. These are mechanical pollinators. We begin with pollen harvesting. It is all done mechanically. We're separating the pollen from other flower parts, and we can preserve them now for over 3 years without any degradation in their viability nor their germinability. When time comes, we put this pollen into the pollination dispersal units. These are autonomous systems driven in the orchard with a tractor. If it's it could be a man-driven tractor or an autonomous tractor, but our machine is fully autonomous. It doesn't need any operator. We're applying a very small dosage of pollen. It could be a few grams or even part of a gram per tree. And we're charging the pollen with an electrostatic charge that help us drive it to the last mile to exactly where we need to put it on top of the style on the stigma. Our proprietary mechanical pollinators are patented. We're now submitting another 2 patents for the dosage system that we've developed and for the physics of electrostatics that we use. This is our team. Our team is divided into 2 parts, the botanical team and the team that is responsible for the quality of the pollen, and the mechanical team, which is developing all our machinery. I'd like to thank you, and I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Karen. Moving on to Tavel Aerobotics Technology, I'm happy to invite Yaniv Maor, founder and CEO, to present this company.
This is the problem we are aiming to solve. Look at the picture, how sad is this? Farmers grow that fruit, the fruit that we eat the whole year, and when the fruit is ripe, ready to be picked, not enough people to pick the fruit. This is the nature of, this is actually the reality that farmer faces today. Every year, if we look back in the last 20 years, we see that the fruit harvesting land doubled. However, agriculture employment has shrunk by 50%, exactly in the same period. This put the whole industry at risk. We are happy to provide a solution. We completed a commercial pilot right now, the last week, in Italy with a very large grower. Here you can see some videos about this pilot. Our flying robot, which is agile, small, can maneuver with 6 degrees of freedom, pick fruit in a very tall trees, work non-stop for 5 weeks during this season, and pick without bruising the fruit, with a better performance of human for grading and bruising. The farmer and the customer was very happy with the results, and we're moving forward with a larger PO and to serve more farmers to come. This robot can deal with a complex environment equipped with cutting-edge technologies and AI, and work fully autonomous, non-stop this pilot. So we delivered the pilot, our first PO, to this leading grower, which is Rivoira, received a few POs from the largest growers in Europe and the US, and also in Israel. We have a backlog of tens of customers, and each of them has tens of thousands of hectares of apples and stone fruit, and also citrus. So what is our product? It's a box, a computing box, together with flying unit, robots that cook fruit non-stop. We integrate this robot in partners. We're collaborating with partners, platform makers, service providers that want to pick fruit. We're integrating this platform and charging for the ton picked directly from the grower. It's a SaaS model for the grower and equipment sale for the platform manufacturer. We are running few projects simultaneously. Here you can see a few, but we have many more in the pipe of platform manufacturers that integrate today our robots in their machines. And next year in 22, all of them will active and pick stone fruit and apples in Italy and the US. We are 45 employees in the company, most of us experts in the field of AI, robotics, and software. We have small engineering team and small operation team and support. We won many awards, including the best field robot from FIRA. We wrote over 12 patents through the 4 years we are running. We also brought to the market new concept of tall trees. In our experiment, we enabled farmers grow taller trees, breaking the limiting factor of access treetops. In this experiment, we grow trees 1 meter over the standard and brought tens of % of crop for these trees. So it's first of all solution for the biggest challenge, with the shortage of labor, reduction in cost, high quality fruit, and also more yield in the farm. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yaniv, right on time. And moving on to the last company we have today, Viridix. I'm happy to invite Tal Maor, CBO at the company, to present his company. Tal, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you for having me today here. Let me just share my screen. So today is about irrigation and robotics and automation, and Viridix is exactly in the middle between. So Viridix founded in 2017 here in Israel to provide precision irrigation solutions, but we are doing it in a different way. So just to emphasize about the problem that we have in irrigation, usually when we think about precision irrigation, we think about saving water, which is definitely a global problem. But from the farmer side, it's not just about getting or consuming less water, but also to having the better yield he can. And in permanent crops and high value crops, it's even a bigger problem. While farmer is irrigating his entire field, it can be in one location or different locations with the same amount of water and get different results. Sometimes it can be tens of % of different between one area in the field to another in terms of yield quality and quantity. And the reason for that, obviously, as we know, is to have the right data and to be able to implement actions based on this data. And one technical term is water potential. Every roots of every plant knows this term, water potential is actually the energy that the roots of the plant need to invest in order to absorb the water from the soil. So if we'll take the same crop, the same plant, and put it in different soils, and we will irrigate it with the same amount of water, one of them can thrive and the other can die. And the reason is that the soil holds the water in a different way. So in order to make the best optimization in irrigation, we need to understand not just how much water we have, as many tools can give us, but we need to understand the water potential, actually what the roots of the plants feels. And here in Viridix, we came with this revolutionary sensor. It's actually an artificial root. So we are imitating the roots of the plants, and we can understand exactly what the water potential, what the roots feels in every point that we measure. So with this data, we can create one irrigation protocol per crop that will be valid globally. So the same crop that will be grow in different places all around the world will have the same water potential in order to be in full production. Each farmer in different areas will irrigate different amount of water, but his goal is to get the same water potential for the plant in order for them to get the best productivity. So this sensor is very unique. It gets the most relevant data for precision irrigation for any crop type in any soil type. It required no maintenance and can live in the soil for many years. On top of this, we've built a full IoT solution. We can add any relevant data that's relevant for irrigation. It can be specific data for specific crops or any external data that's relevant. And then all this data is gathered and sent to the cloud. And once we have unified data like water potential, we can make all the analytics in a very easy way. So the Viridix system, based on the data from the sensors, making all the calculations and give an exact alert to the farmer how much to irrigate in every segment of his field in order to get the best optimization. It can be just an alert, or it can operate a full autonomous irrigation. And that's not just the technology, but also our go-to-market. We are enabler to any irrigation company. It can be irrigation controllers, it can be irrigation companies, to provide them with the data to offer their customers, their farmers, the best autonomous irrigation. This is just one example, simple example that any farmer can save tens of % of water once he has the relevant data in a very efficient and accurate way. Viridix starts sales last year, and we are already spread across Europe and Latin America, now penetrating the US market and Australia, and build on collaboration. So for any relevant collaborations or partnerships, you can reach directly to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tal. I hope you enjoyed all the technologies that we saw. It was very interesting. I think so many variety and technologies that we saw right now. And we reached the end of the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a valuable time. And if you're interested in connecting with one of the companies, feel free to address them or me, and I'll be happy to connect you with them. So with that, good evening in Israel and good day in California. Bye-bye.